Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Deltana number DSB4560BB in a US 10B or oil rubbed bronze. This is what this hinge looks like. I've never actually reviewed a Deltana wide throw hinge before. This is the first time for me. Literally taking out of the package for the first time. You've got fasteners. All machine and all wood screws are provided, and obviously in a complementary finish. Now they say that this material is made of brass, so that should afford a very good, very nice oil rub type finish. Individually packaged, that's always nice. Okay, you can certainly see evidence of the oil rubbed process. Oil rubbed is what is called a living finish, and the short version of that is two pieces are not going to be alike. That's the bottom line. What it looks like today is not what it's going to look like in 10 years or even in 10 months. The material will fluctuate with time. It is a raw process that's done over solid brass or architectural bronze and is specifically intended to be something that will change with time. Now, some people can't believe that is a piece of woven material. I don't know that it's woven, but dryer sheet is what this reminds me of. That's what that oil rub bronze looks like from Deltana on this hinge at this time. I would tell you that this is certainly acceptable in terms of oil rub bronze. I would say that it's on the darker end of what oil rub bronze can be. With time, this will patina. It will lighten, really, if there's any contact with the surface of it. Not that there would be with a hinge, but that would certainly wear off part of the oil rubbed process, revealing the brass-based material underneath. And that is certainly brass. Very nice quality hinge. Just inspecting it visually. Now, where a lot of people get it wrong, and even the big names in the industry, the big names, where they get it wrong is right in the crotch here at the tip of my finger, between the ball bearing and the plate itself, right at the tip of my finger. That's where they get it unfinished. But this is nice. Another telltale sign is that it's a very smooth operation. Not every one of the big players has such nice smooth operation on their ball bearing. This is very excellent. And I'm just noticing this is a standard weight hinge, which means it ought to be 134 thousandths of an inch thick. There are 4 bearing packets, which is not standard for a standard weight hinge. To get 4 bearing packets, you would need to have a heavyweight hinge. Standard weights have a bearing packet here and here. This has it in all 4 areas. That's nice because wide throw hinges are actually not load-bearing hinges at all. The caliper says 0.144, so this is thicker than what it ought to be for the definition of a standard weight hinge. So the summary to this point is we're racking up a lot of positives. Another positive, you know what? They do say that this is 0.145. I've just noticed that in the extended description. Be mindful of that, meaning a standard weight hinge, there's residential duty, which is generally about 97 thousandths of an inch thick. There's standard weight, and then there's heavy weight. This is a standard weight hinge because it's not 180 thousandths thick. Depending on the height of the hinge, so a 4.5 would be 134 thousandths standard weight. There are no residential weight in the 4.5. A heavyweight would be 180 thousandths. This is a little bit thicker. The point being, if you are removing 4.5 inch hinges and going with a wide throw, you're probably going to have to mortise ever so slightly because your door and frame are going to be 10 thousandths shy, 11 thousandths shy. And put those two together, now you're approaching a 32nd of an inch. And if your door is incredibly tight to begin with, that could cause you some trouble. So be mindful of that. Another thing that I like is that the button tip, if you use your imagination, that looks like the button on your coat. We're going to call it a button tip. Those are threaded. You can replace that with a ball tip, or other decorative tip, steeple tip, urn tip, ball tip, steeple, urn. I think that's it, and your button tip. Not that all of those are available from Deltana, but for sure the ball tips are, and probably steeple as well. There is a link below this video to a document called Template that will give you all of the dimensional properties, and that's important because you'll see where the holes for the screws are laid out. So if you have concern over where those are against your existing condition, you can review that prior to ordering the material. Okay, you can see from the template and the swag on the hinge leaf that this is a, right here, the swag, that this is a full mortise hinge. It's meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame when the leaves are brought parallel to give you that standard sort of margin between a door and a frame, which is typically about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, nice quality. I'm very impressed with it. Now, why would you use a wide throw hinge? Well, a number of reasons, in fact. Certainly the most common reason is when you have a casing condition on the wall, on the pull side, that prevents you from getting the door open past 90 degree, or it literally prevents you from installing a standard hinge because the barrel of the hinge is literally in conflict with the trim. Okay, moving that vertical axis of pivoting out from about here to here may clear that condition, allowing you to be able to get the door. Well, that would mitigate any sort of conflict with the barrel. Now, back to the getting open past 90. If you had the vertical axis of pivoting here, and you had a casing condition that came out to here, you won't be able to get that door open, but to basically 100 maybe. But when you shift the vertical axis of pivoting out further, that allows that door to get swung out further to accommodate whatever material, the wall, the casing, whatever clearance is required in here. And that's generally where you're going to use this. A common application would be an exterior door in a home that swings out, and there's brick mold installed rather than just ranch casing. And brick mold is substantially thicker than just a colonial or typical ranch casing. Very common. Another application, less common, is when the door is inset into the frame deeper than standard. When you stand on the pull side of the door and you run your hand over the door and frame, the door is either really flush with the frame or it's kicked in, like maybe 3/32 of an inch. Well, imagine if that dimension was 1 inch. Okay, so now the door is pushed into the frame. You will need a wide throw hinge to mitigate that problem, or at least a raised barrel hinge to get the door, or to get the hinge installed. But when you have a door that has a greater inset than typical is where a wide throw would be used. Not really that common, although you do see them. I see them in old construction, 100 plus years and older, where you've got a 3-story home. Wall construction in the 19th century did not include steel in residential construction. So the walls are substantially thick to bear the weight of everything above it. They've got like 18-inch deep frames. Well, they don't kick those doors all the way out to one side. They literally set them in the middle of this epically deep jamb or thick wall. Those are epically wide throw hinges, and they do that because you want to be able to get the doors not only open, but folded back, or open all the way back. Speaking of folding, another application of wide throw hinges could be, and I've seen this, imagine 4 door panels, 4 of them. Let's do the easier example. Let's imagine a 6-foot wide opening that has 4 18-inch panels. The 2 outer panels are hinged to the jamb. The 2 inner panels are hinged to the outers. What the client wants to do is take those puppies, fold the inner doors back, take the outer doors and fold those back. So at some point you're going to need a wide throw hinge to be able to fold all that back. And if you imagine that in your mind's eye, you can see how that outer end is going to need a wide throw to be able to take that door that you have literally folded over it, and now you've got the thickness of all this, and then folding all that back against the wall. An application that I saw in Central Park South in New York City, which was genius, and everything, of course, is at a epic commodity in terms of space a very limited commodity of space. Dock door, it may have been. Access to something. But because everything is so compressed, and you can't take 4-foot doors and swing them out onto the walkway, what they did was they literally took, and they actually couldn't put a pair of doors. They literally took 4 doors. It was great. I have photos of it somewhere. Took that first panel, folded it. Took those 2, folded those back. Took that last one, folded it all back. So by the time you got over here, you had really huge wide throw hinges, and it was really cool. And again, while wide throw hinges aren't technically load bearing, it allowed them to solve the problem elegantly and safely, and allowing traffic to move on the sidewalk, but allowing the space to be able to take a 6-foot wide opening and receive deliveries there. I think it was a nightclub, not a nightclub, but maybe a restaurant, who, you know, for 3 hours a day is going to be pretty heavy on the deliveries in and out, and need to have that available space. So it was a great use of wide throw hinges when it wasn't a condition of where you'd normally see wide throw hinges, like a casing condition where you want to swing the doors back. Anyway, 4.5 is very common in terms of the height, provided you have an 1 3/4 thick door. You wouldn't try to stuff that onto an 1 3/8 door because the spacing of the screws is too great. It just gets to be too much for an 1 3/8 door. You run the risk of piercing through the door with a if you're doing a thin door. So 4-inch tall and 1 3/4 go hand in hand. Deltana doesn't manufacture every possible wide throw hinge dimensional combination, but they have 4.5 and they have 4-inch as well. And as an aside, if you need wide throw hinges, you might likely need extended lip strike plates as well, which we can help you with. Now, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the all of the Deltana products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website as well as the catalog. I'm partial to Deltana because they're, in 99% of the time, quite no nonsense and quite just ship it out. Business as usual. No problem. Good quality material. They have kept alive many items that once upon a time were available from domestic manufacturers, and they are an importer of material, I would imagine, from Asia. Doesn't say the country of origin on here, but I would imagine somewhere in Asia. But they have really good really nice quality material. You might find it difficult to find casement stays by some manufacturers. Deltana is among a very small number of people that still make them available. And they do so with nice quality brass that affords a very nice finish, and the presentation when you get it is generally well above average. And no nonsense. Said earlier, what I mean to say is when I contact customer service, really, get it right the first time kind of stuff. So they have an exceptional track record of customer service because they're just another importer of Asian manufactured material. So what are they really selling? The hinge? You can buy the hinge from anyone. They're really selling the service is the point. So when you get the service and then back behind that is a good quality piece of hardware that you can rely on, it's a win, and that's why we continue to use them. If you have any questions on the Deltana, this is their part number DSB4560BB. Sold as each, by the way. If you need 2, buy 2. Or 3 or 4. They're sold as each, not per pair. If you have any questions on the Deltana wide throw hinge or any other Deltana product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.